My name is Valerio Tomasso, and I am a Lean Six Sigma black belt for Amazon. Now, Amazon is quite big, so within Amazon, I work within the finance organization, where we look at large business problems with a known solution and use our Six Sigma background to drive the improvements within the finance department. So, as many people during the pandemic, I've started a pandemic hobby, let's call it that way. So I co-host a podcast called the Needle Movers Podcast, which is used to discuss and review books, lessons, and concepts we wish we'd known earlier in our life. So we've been releasing episodes for half a year now, every week, and it's been really good fun. Yeah, I was first introduced to Lean Six Sigma as a graduate at Rolls-Royce. My first rotation was within the manufacturing graduate program, and I was asked to look at reducing the inspection on one of the jet engine components. Now, Rolls-Royce has got a really good, strong Six Sigma culture, so that meant that I was sent to the Green Belt training right away. So that was like within 6 months of graduating from uni. And I guess my first impressions, and I guess comparing the typical jobs that I had seen in Rolls-Royce and the Lean Six Sigma type of jobs, I noticed that it was very tangible in a way. There was a problem, there was an unknown solution, there was tools that you could use, and it felt, at least as an individual, that I could add value onto the business and not lose myself in the detail without having any sight on the larger picture. Sure. So the particular example I was referring to, the inspection process essentially was looking at inspecting every single holes that was machined onto a jet engine component, and the thing that I was looking at was using statistics and sample inspection to try and reduce the number of measurements that were going to be taken around that component to then improve the cycle time of the inspection process. So that looked at a reduction of, I think it was roughly 60 to 70% in the inspection measurement. And that came at the back of the Green Belt project that I was doing. Interestingly, so it wasn't a person that influenced me. Towards the end of the graduate program, I was recommended to read a book called The Goal by Elia Goldratt, and I wasn't much of a reader at the time. So I downloaded the Audible app and I started listening to the book. And the book is written in such a way that doesn't require any sort of prior knowledge on the topic of continuous improvement, and it's. If you haven't read it before, it's a fictional story essentially based on a character called Alex Rogo, and he works as a production manager in a plant which is underperforming. Now, the whole story is based on his journey, professional and personal, and the journey towards improving and turning around the plant that he's working into by finding the key constraints and going through the change management challenges. Now, by the end of the book, I remember thinking, I want to be this guy, and turns out that it's all about business improvement, and that's what his role essentially was, and that's what the book portrayed really, really well in a very simple and effective way. I recently moved, when I say recently, in the last 6 to 7 months, in a position that sits within the finance department. Before that, I was working for operations as a process engineer. And as a process engineer, you look at many things. You look at the day-to-day business improvement, so how you can make the job for associates parking on the shop floor, for example, easier, all the way to managing multi-million pounds expansions of warehouses. So that was sort of like my span of responsibility. I then decided to go for a role which looked more at the Lean Six Sigma methodologies, applying them, which is what the finance department offered me. And as a part of that, I was asked to attend the Lean Six Sigma training course, because all of the projects which the department deals with are projects which do not have a known solution. So people know that there is a problem. People know that there will be a financial impact, and they can quantify the financial impact as well. But there isn't a known solution. So they need someone to go in there to look at data, to look at the current state, figure out where the key opportunities are, and then bring the team together with the tools that have been taught in the Black Belt training course to try and identify potential hypotheses, let's call them, or potential solutions that can then be tested and that can be implemented in the process. Yeah, I think sometimes practicing continuous improvement is sometimes confused with running a project. And I think business improvement goes beyond running a project that could remove waste or reduce variation. I think for me, understanding business improvement means understanding that the business goes beyond the four walls of the office that you're in. And there is upstream and downstream processes, there is tools, there is people, and understanding that improving one aspect within your department in silo can be detrimental to everyone else around you. So at its highest state, the culture of continuous improvement will exist, and you will think of problems as a whole. So that means that when we practice business improvement, we will involve people from the team upstream, people from the team downstream, and we will try and come up with a solution that benefits it all. So that means that if you come up with a solution that is going to be improving your silo department and is not actually going to be improving anyone else upstream or downstream, then it's having that backbone to say, actually, this is not aligned with the company goal. That means that we should be stopping this activity or we should be changing it. I think from my experience also working operations, I think there's a couple of things. The one of them is listening for phrases that I used. So in particular, with my learning style, I tend to ask a lot of questions to figure out the assumptions and truly just understand the process, because I need to understand all the cogs behind a process for me to fully understand the full picture. Now, because of this, I tend to ask a lot of questions, and at times they're really basic. And when I hear the phrase of "we've always done it that way," it's kind of a giveaway that, okay, maybe there hasn't been a lot of emphasis placed in this process or emphasis placed in this team, and maybe they have lagged a little bit behind the continuous improvement journey. The second one, which is a good indicator for me, is if you walk on a warehouse or a shop floor of any sort, and you see that there is Gemba walks which are planned, Gemba boards that are up to date and spread around the facility, and where the functional leaders are attending those walks, that's a good indication that there is actually a really good mechanism for capturing continuous improvement ideas and driving the bottom-up activities. I think starting off in, let's call it like this business, it can be quite daunting. It can be daunting because there may be a number of things that you don't know about the process or you don't know about the tools. And I remember starting off and looking at other black belts or process engineers around me and not feeling as if I could contribute as much in meetings or contribute as much in a conversation. And there's almost that fear that comes up about asking questions because you don't want people to know that you are a fraud and that you don't know the basic knowledge. And I think looking back, that should not have been a problem. And if anything, it can really be an advantage. And I truly mean that, because if you're able to go into a team or a business and start asking some of the fundamental questions, questioning the assumptions, figuring out where the stories are coming from, that can really help the project as a whole, and not just yourself in trying to understand the fundamentals of the project. And that's then when you can use all those tools and tips that they teach you, the green belts, black belt training courses, to try and map those processes, to try and help you understand the how things work. And at that point, then you're not just helping yourself with the tools. You can then display the ideas onto the leaders of the project so that they can also understand what is happening within the business, because sometimes they might have an idea what is happening in the business, but that's not actually the case. So I guess to summarize, the biggest takeaway is don't be afraid to ask the questions. It's okay not to know everything, and to some extent it's an advantage not to know everything.